It's so good to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you for taking the time to do this. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So
Yeah.
before we get into your good work, I want to begin with this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was raging, throwing everything into different levels of unknown. How did you ultimately get through that 2020 pandemic era, and how has it radiated into your world in 2025?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot. I mean, my story is interesting at that time of COVID. So, I coached college lacrosse and I was at Dominican and we were actually in Georgia for games and like before the lockdown started. So we played against Clemson. I think it was on a Wednesday, and then we were supposed to play Georgia Tech on that Friday, and everything's starting to like kind of unfold and we're just not really sure what's happening, and we're on our way to our game. So we had a game on Sunday as well that got canceled, and we were on our way to the game against Georgia Tech, and we get a call from the coach being like, we just got shut down, like we can't play. And so we're now in Georgia, the world is shutting down, and I got to get 60 student athletes home back to California. So we, hopped on the net flight home, said bye to the guys, be like, hey, I'll see you in 2 weeks, kind of expecting this to blow over, and then, didn't see him again until October. So it was pretty crazy, that whole experience, just being a part of that and then being in lockdown. And then we came back the next year, after the summer, we came back and we were able to have our student athletes on campus. We weren't able to, do anything like have anybody else on campus, but at least the student athletes. So we started up practice in October and actually played the 2021 season. We were the one of only two teams in California that got to play that season. So it was pretty crazy experience, and
Yeah.
we did all the testing and all that stuff, and it was a lot, but I think over time, because we never really locked down other than like the little bit over the summer. It didn't, it affected us, but like, it took a while for the team to kind of recover from all of that, because it was a lot. It was definitely mentally and physically draining.
For sure. So
Yeah,
there's a lot going on with you on paper. If I put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day and one of the kids in the back of the room was like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?"
right.
How would you answer that child?
Well, yeah. So no, definitely there's a lot there. Now what I'm currently doing, it's a little easier to explain, but basically I'm still at Dominican. I'm not the head men's cross coach anymore. I'm now the faculty athletic representative, and I'm a professor. So I teach classes, and then I also oversee all the academics for the student athletes. So any type of issues that they have with grades or professors, or just in general school stuff, I would oversee, so that the coaches don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. They can kind of hand it off to me. So every university has one, and I took over this role last year, just finished my full first year of this, taking kind of a step back from coaching and focusing more on family and things like that. So
Cool. So let me
yeah.
ask you this. What did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream job?
Yeah, I mean, my dream was to play in the NHL. That was kind of where I wanted to be, and play professional sports. And then, as time went on, I wanted to make movies. I wanted to be in film. And so, I took that route in college. I played hockey in college. I played lacrosse in college. I went to film school, right? So I did kind of all of that. Didn't make the NHL, but had some opportunity to play, and had some fun with it. But ended up going into the film industry and doing that for a while, and I didn't really love it at the end of the day, and felt like coaching was more my jam, and went that route, and kind of went from there. It was definitely a big transition, but I'm glad I did it, and it's really put me into where I am today for sure.
How did the world of sports and entertainment and film, how did those feed off of each other and strengthen you?
For sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I think, I love that question always, because one thing that people don't maybe realize is that, at the end of the day, like, coaching is telling a story, right? Like, and especially when you're talking about like making a film, and the process of making a film, right? So like when you're making a movie, you're starting off by, kind of figuring out what you're going to do, right? You got to write the script, you got to get all that stuff. It's the same thing when you're coming into a program, right? When I came to Dominican, they had kind of just transitioned and we had to make a lot of changes. And with that, it's like we've got to set a new culture. We've got to set a new standard. We've got to figure out what is the plan to get this team back to being super successful, right? And so that's what you're doing when you're kind of making a movie, right? You're trying to figure out how do we make this movie successful? How do we get people to want to watch it? We got to build the story, right? So that's also like in turn you're building the culture, right? And then when you're making a movie, right, you're going out there, you're filming it, you're doing the production portion. It's the same thing when you're coaching, right? Now I've got to try and figure out how to execute all these things that I've put together to make a coherent team, right? Or at the end of the day, like a coherent story to be able to go and be competitive, right? So, I kind of took a lot of that of what I did, when I wanted to be a director. So if I'm directing a movie, it's the same thing as coaching a team, right? I'm directing a group of people to do what I need them to do to be successful, right? It's the same kind of thing with coaching, right? You're utilizing the group to help them move forward and be successful in what they're in the endeavor, which is, at that point winning a championship, winning games, those types of things.
So, who's been your hero? Who's been an inspirational force to allow you to kind of navigate these paths and evolve into your role right now in life?
For sure, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, like I've always kind of wanted to. I've been all over the place with things that I do, right? Like I've done my PhD now. I've really focused a lot on hockey and lacrosse and coaching and leadership and those kind of things. I think for me, it's probably my dad, to be honest. I mean, when I was kind of looking to make that transition from film to coaching, it's a big deal, right? I mean, I was doing well, I was making good money, and then it's like I'm going to coach now, right? And there's not, and as most people know, there's not a ton of money in coaching, right? And so it was a big risk. And when I said to him, "Hey, what do you think I do here?" He was like, "You got to go for it. Just go for it. Like, why not, right?" Like, and he's really always kind of pushed me to kind of do things and go for things, and has always supported me in that aspect. So I think for me that's probably the big one. I mean, there's coaches and leaders that I kind of have, migrated to a little bit more. My college lacrosse coach, it was a big influence on my life as well. Just kind of finally having a coach who was a little more positive was such a big deal. And so I took a lot of what he did and put that into my own coaching as well. But, the person who's kind of pushed me throughout my life to kind of go after the things that I've wanted has definitely been my dad and more so now my wife as well. So
Yeah. So let me ask you this. In your career as an athlete,
yeah.
what was one of the most intense, energetically exciting games that you were a part of or witnessed?
Ooh, okay. Yeah. That's a good question. I would say there was a couple years ago and I'm going to specifically focus on as a coach more so than a player, but we were playing Oregon, University of Oregon, it was our first game of the season, and they've given us a hard time in the past, and we were playing them at home, and we were down going into, I think it was like going into the third quarter, we were down by almost 10 goals and it was not looking good. And, the team just kind of rallied. We realized that, if we changed a couple things, we played a little more aggressive, we had an opportunity to push them. And we ended up coming all the way back in the game, scoring 10 goals, stopping them. Ended up being like 14-14. We ended up taking them into overtime and scoring the overtime winner 15-14 in the first quarter and the first overtime. And it was, I mean, just the whole atmosphere, the fans, the field, the team. It was just incredible. It was just such an awesome experience, and to be able to come back like that and win the game was pretty awesome. And just one of those things I'll never forget. Just like how the team reacted and celebrated, and it just felt like that big step for us, and that ended up being our best season in program history. And so, for us to be able to like start that way, it just kicked everything off for the rest of the year, which was awesome. And I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I think about all my favorite games, and they were all against Oregon for some reason. I don't know why. When I was at Idaho, we played them and beat them for the first time in our program history, and that was a big deal. We got to play in the Kibby Dome against them one year, and like I think we were down 6-0 in the game, and we scored our first goal, and that place erupted. And I've never heard anything like that. Like I didn't coach at the NA pro level, but like to be in a dome with 2,000-3,000 people and to hear them explode when you score is experience you don't forget, right? So yeah.
That's cool. So
Yeah,
let me ask you this. What has been your philosophy on work-life balance? You got to take care of your soul and your family, but you have a job to do and you want to do it well.
for sure.
How have you balanced that out throughout your life?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I think that's one of the hardest things to do as a coach, because you have two families, right? You have your wife and your children, and then you have your children that are your team, right? So there's that aspect of how much are you able to be involved with the team, but also have the time with your family. Um, and I think for me, like when I was coaching and doing my PhD, and also trying to be there for my kids and be at their events and do all those different things that I put on my plate. It can be hard, and so I think it's just really important to make sure that when you have those times with your family, that you're all in. Like, I had a rule that what I ended up doing is I had a second phone for recruiting specifically because I was like, I want to be able to put this away and not have to deal with this when I'm at home. So I did something like that. And then I also did like after 9 p.m. I'm not going to answer my phone because I want to be there, with my family. And for me, the biggest thing, honestly, was this career change. So moving from coaching into this role, it was for my family. I didn't, my kids are starting to play sports competitively, and I don't want to miss those types of things. So it was, let me take on this new role, move out of coaching so that I can be there and be there for my kids and all that. And then of course I got roped in to coach all their teams this year, which has been such a blast and such a blessing to be able to do that with my kids and get that experience.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained. What
Sure.
advice would you give that young version of you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like that. I think the biggest thing I would say to my younger self is just like, you have an opportunity, take it. Like, don't hesitate. Don't not pursue things because you're worried about this or that, or you're worried about how am I going to get paid? How am I going to do these things? Like, I think that's the biggest thing is like, go after what you're passionate about, do the things that you love. Don't just do it because it's, the highest salary or the highest pay or the best opportunity for that type of aspect. I think it's really important to do things that you love. So I would say for me, like that's the biggest thing. I think now where I am in my life, like if I have an opportunity, I take it. Like I'm going for it no matter what. Because I think it's one of those things that like, why not, right? Why not try it? Like, this year I've been doing a lot of screenwriting, like, kind of getting back into that old niche of filmmaking. And, it's like, why not? Right? Like, what's the worst that can happen? People say no and don't like my script. Who cares? And so just having that mentality, I think, is so important in life. Just like being able to go, hey, I'm going to go do this. Like, did I think I was going to go get my PhD? No, but I had an opportunity and I felt like it was really cool. And I was like, why not? Let's do it. I'm going to be a doctor now.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where, I think at the younger age, I didn't always take those risks, and so that would be the biggest thing I would say to myself is, hey, take the risk, go do the things that maybe feel uncomfortable to reach your goals and what you want to do in life.
The thing about film, loving film, is that it all goes back to our childhood and our early years of
Yeah,
falling in love with that one movie. What
yeah.
was that for you?
Ooh, okay. Yeah, no, I love that question. Always love talking movies. For me, it's kind of funny to say this, but the movie that I remember and that like really got me into filmmaking was Night of the Living Dead,
Oh,
actually.
cool.
Yeah. So I saw that actually when I was a kid. And seeing that movie like really changed everything for me. Like I just love horror movies. I love that kind of stuff. And that was kind of the first one that kind of kicked it off. Just kind of, I think the kind of the gritty style and the way that the movie was made and how it was like this low budget movie with this unknown filmmaker who just took all his friends in Pittsburgh and was like, we're gonna make this thing, and it became this legendary movie, right? And I think that's just so cool. And yeah, I love that movie. That's definitely the one that kicked it off for me.
So, of all these different roads that you've traveled to
Yeah.
here, of everything that you've done, accomplished, and more importantly, evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
Ooh. I think there's two pieces that I'm the proudest of. Like one would be that I was able to build a career and a life out of coaching, right? I think that's something that's really hard to do. And be able to come to a university and be a coach and then be an assistant athletic director and then moving into this role, like I've made a career for myself where I can support myself and my family. And that's something that can be really hard in coaching, especially with not a background of playing D1 or professional or those types of things. So I think that's something I'm really proud of, being able to do that. Like that, it was a grind and it was a lot of work, but like it's really paid off, and that's awesome. I think the other piece of it, side of that, would be the doctorate. Like I was not a very good student in school. When I was in high school, undergrad, I just got by, And so when I went back to school and got my master's, and then it was like, oh, I'm going to do this, and then like having to go through the dissertation process and building that whole thing and the research, it was, something that I never thought I would do, and be able to do that with a 4.0 and get a dissertation published. It was like I couldn't believe it at the end of the day with how it started for me when it came to education. So, and then of course I got to say my family as well. So
Course,
very
of
proud of
course.
that, and my kids. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. There's so many pockets of people,
Yeah.
family, your students, athletes, friends, everyone, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah, totally. I think for me, like the biggest thing that I've always focused on is is just being there.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned as a coach and as a leader, is just just being there. Like it's as simple as being available, being attentive, like being caring, like willing to listen and talk to people and not like brush it off, right? I think my biggest strong suit as a coach was I'm a player's coach. Like I want to know what's going on with you and I want to help you through it. I want to be able to you to feel comfortable to come to me and be able to help you with things. And so that's, partly for my role as well, like in this position as the FAR, my job is for them to feel comfortable to come to me with issues that they're having with people on campus that, have a lot of power, right? And so I want them to feel comfortable coming to me and talking to me. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me is just I want just being there, just being a part of it and being there and trying to be as helpful as I can in the roles that I'm in, whatever that may be.
So let's say we get off the phone here, get off the call, time machine pulls up, and you can go anywhere in the history of sport, NHL or anywhere, and see one game with your
Okay.
own eyes. Where are you going?
Oh, okay. All right. All right. I like that. Oh, that's hard. There's two I'm sitting on right now. I
Okay,
mean,
let's
like
do. Yeah,
I,
two.
I was lucky enough to be able to see two of my teams win championships, which was the Raptors and the Cubs. So like I'm happy about those two.
Cool.
And but I would say like if I go back at this age to watch the Rangers win the 94 Cup, I would go back and do that in a second. Like that, like because I was alive, but like I didn't really know what was going on. And so like I hope the Rangers one day get there, but like I don't know if they will. So it would be going back to watching that game, watching them win the Stanley Cup and celebrating and being a part of that parade and all that stuff. The other one would have to be the 1980 Miracle on Ice, like at Lake
Oh
Placid, like
man.
that. I mean, that was just, I mean, had to be such an experience to be in there in that arena. Like I couldn't even imagine what that would be like, and that's one I don't think I could miss.
I interviewed somebody at one point and I asked them the same question
Yeah.
and they said I would be back at that game in 1980 and I was like, wait. What'd you say? And he was an amateur player and he was there.
Oh, really?
And it
Yeah.
was like, I was like,
That's
what was it
incredible.
like? He was just like, dude, just like, he was just stammering. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
that's one of the most iconic things in all of sports. It's the Rudy
totally.
of
Right,
the sports world.
right.
So,
Yeah, no, incredible moment.
so I got to know as a coach, as someone that loves sports, have you seen that movie on Netflix called The Turnaround?
The turnaround.
It's
No, I
about
don't know if I have.
Oh, dude, it's the Rudy of baseball. It's 24 minutes
Oh,
long. The dude just won an Emmy for it, I believe. It is one of the most inspirational sports stories. I mean,
wow.
I was a mess at the end of it. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Hmm.
So it's about Trey Turner when he came to Philly, and Philly's a really rough
Okay.
town. He
Right.
came from LA there, and it just kind of took because it just was talking about how rough it was. But I won't give anything away beyond
Okay.
that. Dude, you got to watch it.
I'm
It's
gonna watch
unreal.
it. Yeah. We just, it's funny. I was just on a trip with my family and we just watched Rudy on Netflix.
Oh man.
And my kids saw it for the first time and they were like, "This is the best." And like at first they were like, "We don't want to watch it," and then they're like, they're just mesmerized by
Oh,
this movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is the Rudy baseball version. So
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to reach out, they're interested, they're curious, anything in your world, where do they go?
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram is Coach Sammy Lax, or my LinkedIn, which is just my name. So those are definitely the best two places to reach out to me and have any questions on anything. So yeah, and you can check out my dissertation as well on ProQuest, and if you just search my name in Google Scholar, it'll show up as well.
Okay, and I will put that in the show notes. Sammy, this has been a joy, man. What a great interview. Great to run into you. Thank you for your story, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. It was super fun and
Absolutely.
great questions. Those are some awesome questions
Oh, you're a
there.
pro, dude. You're
Looking
a
to
pro.
get new clients to your business through cold calling or email marketing? At Agency Y, they envision a world in which small and big companies have equal chances to win new customers in the market. Their purpose is to bring parity and reduce the gap between large and small firms with the help of their cold calling and cold email marketing services. Use the code Joe Dimino 10 at www.agencyyy.org/coldcallingjoe.php or www.agencyyy.org/emailmarketingjoe.php to get 10% off your first order. This is Joe Dimino of Neon Jazz and Famous Interviews, and I stand behind Agency Y to meet your business dreams.